Do you see this as the most important issue for the Labor Party heading into next year's election, if that indeed turns out to be the case?
Well, I think this is an absolutely critical area. When I speak to mums and dads right across the country, the cost of childcare is very crippling. But it is not just the benefit for those mums and dads that will get better or more affordable childcare under a Labor government, but it's also our economy, because what we know is the current system actually acts as a disincentive, particularly for the second wage earner, to go back to work on the fourth or fifth day. And so for many women, depending on their income bracket, they've actually got to pay to go to work on the fifth day if they use childcare. So it's actually a drag on our economy as well. So our proposal is not only supporting mums and dads with the cost of childcare, but it is also about economic reform, lifting women's workforce participation, which in turn will grow our economy. And that's the type of reform we need during this difficult time.
How do you stop the private centres from jacking up the gap fees?
Look, that's a really important question, and what we've said is we will, at the same time as this boost when it comes to early education and care and the subsidy, we will make sure the ACCC is tasked with the role of working out a price regulation mechanism. We want to make sure that every cent of this flows to families, the benefit flows to families, so that it does bring down the cost of childcare.
Why stop at 97% of families?
Well, look, what we've proposed in our first 3 years is to remove the cap, which is a cap on the amount of money you can get in any 1 year. That is a big disincentive for the second wage earner to go into work. We're also lifting the subsidy. But ultimately, what we've also said is we would like to task the ACCC to move towards universal 90% subsidy so that every family could benefit. So we're starting with a better off for 97% of families, but we would like to look at a pathway to get to 90%. I think it's important to recognise that childcare is an essential service for families that need to go to work, that need to actually get care for their children, and this is how we need to start viewing it.
And that 3% is for those earning above a combined salary of 500 grand, right?
That's right, 530,000. What we see is it's important to support families, working families, people that are working perhaps in professional jobs, as well as low-income families. So we see it as important to support families right across that income, but our 3 years does cut out at 530,000.
Would the next step be to go all the way?
Look, the next step really is to look at how we can get a 90% subsidy for everyone. That's our plan. That's what we're going to task the Productivity Commission to look at, is how we transition to that. And I think that's certainly our ambition to get there.
Is it time we had public childcare the same as we do with public schools?
Well, look, there are some public childcare services out there. There are also some private. There's for-profit, there's not-for-profit. There is a really big, I guess, diversity in the market. And, look, that's good for families to actually have a choice. I think we don't want to see a sector that doesn't have choice, so we need to make sure that there is public and there is other services. We don't intend to change significantly the ability for not-for-profit or for private providers to deliver childcare, but what we don't want to see is price gouging and excessive profits when it comes to early education.
But that would be real reform, though, wouldn't it?
Well, look, you know, there's certainly some states and territories that do attach a childcare centre to their school and to their kindy. It's certainly something that some states have been very interested in, others have not. We don't run the centres, of course. We provide the subsidy and we provide the support. But what we do want to see, I think, when you look at this system, is you don't want excessive profits, and that's what our ACCC process is all about, is looking at price regulation.
OK, well, the government poses the question in response to Anthony Albanese's budget response. What would have to be cut to make way for this spend? So what would you say to that?
Well, of course, what the government's done is racked up $1 trillion worth of debt and has not been able to point to any long-term economic reform. They're spending $9 billion on childcare already and haven't removed these structural barriers for women to go back to work. So we see this as an incredibly important economic reform. And if you grow the economy, then that helps with budget repair. And of course, when you look at the return on investment in childcare, you're looking at conservatively with these measures and similar models between a $4 billion to $7 billion growth on GDP. I would like the government to show us which of their measures in their $1 trillion worth of debt would actually have that type of economic return.
Well, it believes it's doing enough. It's already subsidises 85% of low to middle income earners, spend some $9 billion a year, and it was free for the majority of the pandemic so far. So how far short do you think that is?
Well, first of all, it was only free for 3 months. And of course, what parents realised then was this really helped them actually do more hours, especially if you're an essential worker. During that time, essential workers actually had to do more shifts, and having free childcare meant that they could do those extra shifts. But I think what the government has failed to recognise is things like the cap, things like the very steep taper rate for families acts as a disincentive. And as I said before, for the second wage earner, particularly women, to go back to work full-time, they are often having to pay. So they lose money to go back for the fifth day. That is a drag on our economy, as well as a bad outcome for that second wage earner if they want to go back full-time.
OK, Amanda Rishworth, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you.